It's been a while since I've shown you the bonsai garden itself, and maybe for good reason. Yes, believe it or not, that's the same shot. I feel like this happens every year. I tell myself this year it's not going to get out of control, and sure enough, yes, there are trees in there somewhere. In this madness, it would be easy to lose some of the smaller little bonsai trees if you're not paying attention. Which is why this stuff caught my eye here. And I said, what is this, Forsythia? And sure enough, there is a little pot with Forsythia in there. So let's talk about those. Okay, so I'll try to make this quick. I have 4 Forsythia total. They were some of the first trees that I collected when I started my pre-bonsai collection a couple of years ago. Mainly because, I had a ton of them in my yard and they were free. Anyone who has a Forsythia bush in their yard, like I do, knows that they ground layer very easily, which just means that when the branches touch the ground, they put down roots at the contact point with the soil, which means around the perimeter of any established Forsythia bush, there'll be tons of little baby Forsythias, like these. And they're oftentimes not very interesting in any way. But the 4 that I dug up, each had something slightly interesting about it, at least. For example, this one here, let's call it Forsythia number 2, that I found growing between 2 pavers. It happened to have great trunk movement. I always figured I'd style it as a cascade one day, but after a quick repot this spring, I decided to go with sort of an informal upright. And I actually think it looks pretty good, for what that's worth. This one here that I first showed off the long shoots of, we'll call this one Forsythia number 3. This one grew from a branch that contacted the ground at 2 points, and it kind of grew 2 leg-looking things. So I thought that was pretty cool, so I dug that up too. Here's the only archival picture I could find of it. In fact, here's all 3 of the Forsythia that I haven't shared yet. At this point, they were living in my squirrel-proof cage, which turned out not to be a chipmunk-proof cage. But it turns out, I ended up being a pretty good chipmunk hunter. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Anyway, you'll see here that I'm pointing to the sucker, which I've let grow, which, by growing long, has significantly thickened the trunk. And it's also given the tree a lot of vigor. The experts would probably call this a sacrifice branch. And to my eye, it's done its job in thickening the base, so I think it's time to go. And the same goes for this little guy here. We'll call him Forsythia number 4. He's full of suckers, ripe for the sacrificial slice and dice. And all of this awesome gnarliness in the trunk here was caused by dieback when I first chopped the trunk after I collected it. Here's that old photo again showing what it used to be, which is pretty much just nothing. But the chop that you see there, it really didn't like that chop, and it started to die back very soon after, and the bark started to fall off, and it just made this crazy scar down the middle here, but I thought it was going to die, and yet here we are with lots of trunk character and developing branching, somehow. So anyway, let's get on with the task at hand here. First off, I'd like to shout out to Blue Sky Bonsai for making a great educational video on pruning your bonsai, and it was his talk about the summer pruning that really inspired me to do this video in the first place. It's a great video, great channel, go check it out. Link is down below. So the logic to the summer pruning, as it applies here, would be twofold. One is that it's safe to do because at this point the tree has lots of stored energy in the trunk, and so it's going to be able to push out new growth with no risks. So that's going to help with ramification. Secondly, as I've already mentioned, these long shoots were grown as sacrifice branches, and for the most part I think they've done their job. I could let them grow longer, but I think I like to trade in some of that potential thickness for some ramification because, why not? I actually do leave one of these long shoots here, as you can see. Thinking about it, I decided to keep this one because I think that's the leader. If you look at this, kind of comes up, swoops to the right, back to the left, and then that could be a little thicker. So I'm gonna let that grow sacrificially. Okay, and now here's Forsythia number 3 again, and same story. Long suckers, cut them back, and get the tree back into shape. By the way, sorry for the horrible camera angles. All these trees are rooted solidly into the ground, and I don't want to disturb the roots. I like when they root into the ground. I feel like once they do that and they root through the pot, they just get this crazy vigor. They get like this unlimited power. It's like they become like immortal. Immortal. Also with this tree, in addition to cutting back that overly long growth, I gave the whole thing a bit of a hedge pruning, since it had all sorts of healthy growth at all sorts of different lengths. And by hedge pruning, I just mean I cut back all the branches, even if it was just the tip. Again, I figured it could only help with ramification. And now back to Forsythia number 4. Same deal. Long shoots gotta go. You'll see here that I left this sucker as well to try to get that leader a little bit thicker again. Now this branch here that I'm pointing to may come off entirely, but we'll see what happens when I repot it next spring. I mean, as it sits in the pot right now, that branch is kind of coming out right at the soil level. But again, I may change that soil level. I may not find that that's a good first branch. I don't know. We'll see. And here's our old friend Forsythia number 1 that I repotted earlier this spring. This is the tree that I accidentally pulled off the rock because I'm an idiot. Oh, shit! But this guy, too, has grown like crazy and rooted through all that brand new soil and straight into the ground. It's actually pretty staggering. Here's where I cut off that sucker from the leader. I may reduce that back further, but for now I think I'm just going to leave it as is. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. For all of this stuff. Not just for that one fucking branch. Anyway, let's do a little before and after. Can we do a little before and after? Can we do a little before and after? Oh, brutal. So that's it. What was I going to say? I think it came out pretty good. I'm still not sure if I really got it at the right time. I don't know if I should have waited and let the suckers grow longer and just maximize the thickening of that, or if I should have just done it sooner and maybe gotten another flush of growth. Yeah. Forsythias, if you're new to bonsai like me, I would highly recommend them. I mean, they seem like they're really hard to kill. It's good stuff. Thanks again, Dave at Blue Sky Bonsai. Keep it coming. Go check out his channel. I don't do this.
Giant! Come here! There's a giant mantis over here, Mommy. It's bigger on your finger. Look at it!
Hey, be nice to it,